Good afternoon and welcome to Stepping into New Beginnings, Day 2 of our 3-part Second Chance series for returning citizens, brought to you by the Stark County Alumni Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I'm Robin Grimes, and joining me are my co-hosts Tiffany Skillerin and Krista Allison. Similar to Day 1, we will continue to recognize the returning citizens and the reentry process. We will provide community resources and empower these citizens as they successfully transition back into the community. Today, we will focus on community resources. So at this time, I'd like to turn the conversation over to my co-host, Tiffany. Thank you. Tiffany, you're on mute.
Thank you, Robin. Trying to keep that background noise out. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining us today. I'd like to welcome to our conversation Tarana Francisco, Supervisor of Protective Services at Summit County, and Danelle Leitner, Program Administrator at Stark County Job and Family Services. Tarana and Danelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tarana, I'd like to...
Oh, you're welcome. Tarana, I'd like to start with you because I know the most common question you probably hear being from the Children's Services Department is, how do I get my kids back when I return to the community?
Right.
So can you just describe that process for us?
Well, yes. Well, there's a few scenarios that come with this. And let's just start off with, if the child is in the custody of Children's Services and there's an open case, or the kids are in the custody of a relative or kinship and we're still involved, then one of the most important things is for that parent to connect with the social worker. You know, once they've connected with the social worker, then it would be my advice to make sure that ask what the timelines are, because there are timelines when we have open cases with Children's Services. The timeline, the state allows for us to keep a case open for a year. If at that year mark, the parent has shown some progress, then we're allowed to request for a 6-month extension, and then the court, the majority of the time, will grant it. If the children still have not been reunified within that 6-month extension, then we can request for another 6-month extension. But the overall timeline is 2 years that we're really trying to seek and find permanency for a child. And the reason for that is, you know, years ago, there wasn't really a timeline on it, and kids would stay in custody for 3, 4, 5, 6 years at a time. And we found that there was no stabilization, there was no permanency, and it always kept the child at limbo. So that's why the state shortened the timelines. Another scenario is in regards to if the child is in the legal custody of the relative or the kinship provider and Children's Services is not involved, the parent would have to petition the court to try to gain custody. When they petition the court, there's no guarantee. However, they have to be able to prove that their circumstances have changed, that they're able to provide a stable environment for the child, and that they're able to keep the child safe. And they also have to prove that the child's situation has changed. The majority of the time, if that child's situation has not changed in their current placement, it makes it harder for that parent to regain custody of them, just due to the fact that the child is in someone else's custody, they're not home, they're stable, they're thriving, and things are going well. To back up in regards to if the children are in our custody, we're involved. Once the parent has reached out to the social worker, they'll generate a case plan. The case plan is, I call it a roadmap. You know, it's something that the parent and the social worker has sat down, talked about the concerns that has brought the case into the agency, and then to see what kind of services is needed to remedy those concerns so that the kids can go back home. So I did want to mention that. So.
That's very interesting, because initially, I never knew anything like that. When you said it depends on if the child situation has changed, I thought all the time if the person comes out, excuse me, and they do what they need to do, then they can work their way to get their child back. But
Mhm.
according to what I'm hearing you say is that it's not always guaranteed. You can get your life together, you can become a millionaire, have everything ready and stable, but your child situation has not changed and they feel like the child is stable and they don't want to remove them from that stability. Is that true?
That's true.
Wow.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I know it sounds a little hard, but I think at the end of the day, the main goal is to make sure that that child is stable. Because, you know, we all know that if the children are not in a stable environment, you know, it can impact that child when they're a youth all the way up to adulthood. But if you can get them in that stable environment at an early onset, you know, it helps with them building their self-esteem, less anxiety, and then they just have that higher threshold of security to where they'll be able to function as productive adults. So that's why.
Okay, understandable. I'd like you to, since you have provided us with so much information for parents returning to the community, just trying to give us two good takeaways. What kind of pieces of information, if you could only give them two pieces of advice, what would that be?
Okay, I think my main thing is I always like to function on the positive side. You know, so many times that when they get out, you know, people will, us in general, feel like the world is against them, it's never going to happen. So I really try to make sure that I encourage parents to just be positive. Try to be positive, let the process work, you know, reach out to your worker, see what's needed, and I always say hit the ground running. Do your services, make sure you're making progress, because that will lead to a quicker reunification than not engaging in them. And just to remember that we want to see kids be reunified with their parents. So the goal is always reunification.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that helpful information. Danelle, I know that you two are working from the human resources standpoint. So what programs are available and what are the eligibility requirements?
Well, here at Job and Family Services in the Human Services Division, we offer several programs to help families. One, of course, is the Medicaid program, also SNAP, which used to be called food assistance, cash assistance for families with children, and also publicly funded childcare, where we can help mitigate childcare expenses. Now, for all the programs, overarchingly, for people who are residents of Stark County, we have to verify citizenship, income, and benefits are based on income and household size. So those are kind of overarching. But each program itself has different rules. Medicaid is overseen by a different federal entity than the SNAP program is, and also the cash assistance program. So the income limits and some subsequent rules would be different for all the different programs. But for Medicaid, for people who are coming out, if it's an adult with no children in the home, the income would be 138% of poverty. But if there's a child in the home, then for the children to be eligible, income can go up to 200% of the poverty standard. For SNAP benefits, again, when you come in and you apply, the income needs to be under 130% of the poverty standard for the household size. If the income is under that limit, then a different budget is done, taking into consideration childcare expenses, rent, utilities, those kind of things to determine what the monthly amount of benefits would be for the family. Childcare assistance, the income when you're coming in onto the program the first time, the income has to be under 130% of the poverty standard. But once someone has an open child care case. And as they progress in their employment, they can continue to get help with child care benefits up to 300% of the poverty standard. So they kind of, once you're on, as your income continues to increase, they still want to keep that subsidized child care in play to help people as they move towards self-sufficiency and increase their income. There are numerous ways to apply for these benefits, and with new computer systems that we have, several things that we used to have to verify by paper. If you would come in and apply for cash assistance or food, you would have to provide an ID, a social security card, a birth certificate, which people who have been displaced, sometimes that is hard for them to provide. Now the system that we have, we can electronically verify, in most cases, citizenship, social security number, and a form of ID. So it's made it a lot easier for people to apply for benefits. We try to be a one-stop shop. There is a toll-free number now that you can apply and do it completely by phone. You don't have to wait for an appointment, come in here. You can call in Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. What happens is when you call in, of course, it's a state system and they ask you some different questions, but they will ask you for your zip code. And that zip code, when entered, will take that phone call and route it back here to Stark County. So when they apply for benefits, they will be speaking to one of our workers here in our building. And they can take audio signatures over the phone for cash, food assistance, and Medicaid right then. And again, there's several things that we can now verify electronically. So it really kind of streamlines what people have to do to get benefits and has made it a little bit easier. There's also a way that you can apply online. And I can put the phone number and the website in the chat for everyone. So that way they know the number that they can call to access those services or apply online. I'm sorry, I thought I heard a comment. Cash assistance is basically the only cash assistance that is available right now is for families with children. And to be eligible for that program, you have to really have little to no income. There are some requirements. If you are a single parent who's coming in to apply, you are required to cooperate with the child support agency, unless you can prove that there's some safety issues that would prevent you from doing that. For cash assistance and for some of our people who receive food, there are work components that are required. So you would be assessed and assigned to some kind of a work activity geared toward helping you become employed or reduce barriers to become employed. And there are some other programs that we run that under the PRC program. It stands for Prevention, Retention, and Contingency. And these are other programs that are funded by TANF money, so they're meant to help families with children. But we also have expanded our definition here in Stark County to also help non-custodial parents who have a child support order for their minor children. We help with some subsidized employment, some supports for people who are just becoming employed. We also pay for some education, some short-term training for people who are coming through our food program. And we also work with Children's Services to help with kinship. So if someone does take in children, that they can get help to pay for furniture, diapers, formula, to help pay with childcare for those families as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that information. To summarize what you presented today, what are 3 key points that you want the listeners to take away from your discussion?
I would say that if you have any questions or doubts, then you should call in and apply. I'm a big proponent of, if you don't ask, you don't know. And so we're always happy to answer questions. So, and you never know. The second one is that every program is different, but also every household is different. And one change in household circumstances can make a difference in how the case is viewed. I can't tell you how many people call in and say, well, my neighbor wasn't eligible for that, so I'm not going to be eligible for that. But every circumstance is different. So I would say that they would need to come in or call in and apply. And especially for the medical, because that can be, I think, a huge piece of stabilization, to be able, your health is everything. So if we can get that taken care of, that's what we like to do. Also, that with every program, there are some work components that are required for cash assistance and also food. Right now, the only people that are required to do a work component for food are single adults that come in to apply, that have no children living with them and no medical barriers. But yes, when in doubt, you need to call and ask. And we will look at everything that you're possibly eligible for when you call.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Right now, we're going to take a moment to look at our Facebook live chat and also our Zoom chat to see if there are any questions. I know I did see one pop up that says, does the timeline start upon the parent's release or include time of incarceration? I think that might be for you, Tarana.
Yes, no, the timeline actually starts when the case opens up in Children's Services. So if the case has been open 5-6 months and now the parent has been released and now wants to regain custody of their children, they technically have the 6 months that's left in that year. And then if they are making progress, again, we can ask for the extension.
Okay. I seen another question in the chat. It says, is the computer program you use for electronic documents and audio signatures also used in other counties?
Yes, it is. It is a statewide phone system and document system. I do know that there are a few counties out there that are not using the state document system. Here in Stark County, we are. So any documents that have been turned into any other county that use that system, we will be able to see that as well.
Okay. Does anyone see any other questions in the chat?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Robin. At this time, I'd like to turn over our discussion to our co-host, Krista Allison.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, and welcome everyone. At this time, I'd like to welcome to our conversation Sandra Piles, who is the HEAP Director at the Stark County Community Action Agency. And we want to thank you so much, Sandra, for joining our conversation this afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, good to see you again as well.
Yes.
So just a couple of questions for you. Can you tell us just a little bit about the HEAP program itself? I think some of us, when we hear that, we kind of know, but we associate it with certain seasons. So can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Okay, so If I can, before I get into the HEAP program, I just want to talk about Stark County Community Agency in general.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the fact that we offer a multitude of services for residents of Stark County. We're not only just about utility assistance. We have Head Start, which is kindergarten readiness. We have a Community Pathways Hub, which is for healthy pregnancy, healthy babies. In fact, they're having a drive-through baby shower this Saturday at the Goodwill Community Campus from 10 to 12, which is free and open to the public. We also have a weatherization program where we can help households weatherize their homes. We also have training and education programs, which would be very good for returning citizens, because most of our programs are training for jobs that have that have living wages. So that's another thing. And then we also have a housing program right now, which is just really awesome. If someone is unable to pay their rent or their mortgage or even their utilities, our housing program can help with that. And so I just want to make sure everybody knows that Stark County Community Action Agency is like the premier go-to in the community for any program. We help from birth all the way up to adulthood. So I just want to put that out there and say that first and foremost.
No, that's great.
Okay.
No. I actually appreciate that you said it, because what it does is it showcases all of the different facets of the organization. And while I know we have this one particular title, but the thing is we're going to jump into all of those things you named as well. So I'm happy that you gave us a precursor to it, and just enough just to whet our appetites on what all the services are. So,
Exactly.
well, since we're there, I want to continue to kind of walk through that a little bit, because you talked about some of the different services that were offered. You talked about the job training and the housing pieces. And if we could specifically kind of narrow in on supports and services for returning citizens, can you help walk us through that? And specifically for returning citizens, if they were coming to Stark Community Action Agency, what is it that they would do, and how would they navigate through all of the different areas that you have within the agency?
Okay, so let me say this. As far as our housing program, if in order to get assistance with that program, it has to be COVID related. So if there is a returning citizen and they have had something that they can relate back to COVID, then we can help them get housing. They would call, they would be able to get the rent and the deposit paid, first month's rent and deposit paid. If they had a mortgage and they were behind, they would be able to get that paid. So we could do that. We can definitely help them get into housing. Secondly, a lot of times when citizens return, they need utilities. And that's my program, the HEAP program. And basically what happens is maybe they have an old bill, that they had prior to going in, and now that they're out and they need to establish new service, or they need to, if they're actually living somewhere and they need to get their service restored, or they need to get on a payment program, then we can help them with that. So they should start with the HEAP program. And then if they have children, and they have a job and they need to be able to get their children in some sort of a program, of course, we have Head Start, we have full day, they have half day. So there's all of that. If they're pregnant, they can go through our Pathways Hub program. So basically it's like a one-stop shop for a returning person. I mean, there's an array of services that we can provide. But now with the utility assistance, with the program that I'm the director of, we have 3 major programs that we offer. So we offer our winter crisis program. And as you had stated earlier, it is seasonal. So that program is only offered from November 1st to March of each year. Okay. And that's like our biggest program. That's the program where we help you stay warm in the winter, basically. If your service is off, if you're facing a disconnect notice, even if you have no bulk fuel, and a lot of people don't understand this, we help with coal and wood and fuel oil and propane.
Ask you about that. That's what I was going to ask you about. You said bulk fuel. That is not a term that people walk around and they say every day. So thank you for explaining that, because I was going to ask you what you meant by that.
Oh, absolutely. Some people have corn pellets. They have a furnace that operates off of corn pellets. So we can help with that. So a coal, you wouldn't believe it. There's some people here in Stark County that have coal furnaces. So we can help with all of that during our winter crisis program, which runs from November 1st to March 31st of every year. And then in the summertime, we have a 2-month program where we can help with air conditioners and fans and electric bills. Now for that program, you have to be over the age of 60, or you have to have someone in the home that is disabled, which has to be certified by a medical professional. But we can help with air conditioners, fans, and again, electric bills. But then year round, and this is the program that I love and that I think more people should take advantage of, and that's our PIP Plus program. Okay, it's the percentage income payment plan. Basically, what that plan does is this. Even if we help you in the winter and we get your service restored, even if we help you in the summer and we get you an air conditioner, how are you going to be able to maintain that bill every month? What a solution is, you get on PIP Plus. Because what that program does is you pay for your utility assistance based on your income and not on your usage. So in other words, there could be someone that only gets $785 a month in a check. We would say out of that money, 6% should go towards your utilities. And that would amount to $47 for their electric, $47 for their gas. Now, mind you, their bill for that month could be $300,
Right.
but all they're going to pay is $47. And if they pay it on time and in full, the rest of that month's bill is forgiven. So this is a program that helps them be able to maintain their services. And if there is a person who doesn't have any income at all, and they're able to prove that they don't have any income, we put them on a minimum payment plan of $10 per month for their utilities.
Documented by a provider in order for them to meet our eligibility criteria for that program. So as I've talked about our programs, I'll now talk about how they can access those programs. So YWCA Canton is part of a coordinated entry system that we have here in Stark County. And as Ms. Miner-Smith talked about, we also work with Homeless Navigation. It's formerly been called Homeless Hotline System. So in order to access our services, those who need assistance, whether it's shelter or housing, they do have to register with Homeless Navigation. And again, that phone number is 330-452-4363. Homeless Navigation is available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4 p.m. And once they call, they will complete a phone assessment with the hotline operator. And that phone assessment will determine preliminary eligibility for programs in Stark County, specifically homeless programs, and then it can potentially prioritize them on lists that we then use when we have openings in our programs. So that's just a little bit about what we offer here. But again, the front door for our services, specifically housing, is that they need to contact Homeless Navigation first.
Homeless Navigation. And so you did provide the information for us with respect to that. And so once they call, would they come in and schedule an appointment? How does that work?
It depends on what type of services they're seeking. So if it's shelter, if we have a shelter bed open that day, they would receive a referral if they are the next person to be referred to shelter. So it goes by need. Homeless Navigation prioritizes those seeking shelter and services by need. So we report our bed vacancy to Homeless Navigation, and then they work on filling those beds and they will make referrals. So if the person is referred to us for shelter, they would be contacted and they would be directed to come here then for an intake. As far as rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, once they complete that assessment through Homeless Navigation, we will then call them when we get to their name on the prioritization list. And that's if we can get to their name on the prioritization list, because unfortunately those lists are so long, but we work so diligently to try to get through them, as quickly as we can. But they would receive a call from us when we would be looking to collect more information and to schedule an intake.
Okay. When you were talking about the list and you said that the list can be long, that just broke my heart there.
I know. There's lots of people that need services in our county.
And I just want to add that point in regards to Stark Metropolitan Housing as well. I receive a lot of calls all the time. And we don't provide emergency housing. A lot of people think that SMHA provides emergency housing, and it does not provide emergency housing. And like mentioned by Ms. Snyder, having a long waiting list. There are a lot of people in the community that are in need of housing, and it's all based on the unit size and what the family needs. So you could be air quote next on the list, but if you need a 3-bedroom and the next unit that is available is a 1-bedroom, then that can't be offered to you. So it's like waiting. It's a matching game, a matchup game. It's not an automatic who's next on the list. Another thing I just wanted to point out to clarify is in regards to availability. It's not automatic. There is a application process. And while there are eligibility requirements, the Housing First is a model. It's a national model, not necessarily SMHA's, mission or theme, if you will. Housing First being that it doesn't matter what happened to the person. It doesn't matter that they're just coming out of prison or that they've been homeless or whatever. That's not the criteria. There isn't any. Versus programs that require 90 days sober or 180 days sober or being out of incarceration for 3 years. Housing First is, that's it. You need housing. We're helping you to connect to the housing. So just wanted to provide that clarification as well. And also, while we're talking about housing, I know another essential need is employment. And many employers in Stark County they have banned the box. We don't hear about that a lot anymore. It was a whole campaign before nationally, but SMHA has banned the box. So what does that mean? It means that while, on the application, it may ask about whether you have a felony or some type of conviction, it's not an automatic preclusion to you being employed. You have an opportunity after the background check is done, if you do have things in your history that are of criminal nature, you have the opportunity to explain that. So depending on what the charge is, what the conviction is, and the type of job that you're seeking, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to be employed because you have a felony. So banning the box is something that has been a tremendous positive in communities across this country, because so many people have been denied the opportunity for employment after they have served their time, made their debt to society, and they're coming back to renew, to be afresh, to have a second chance, and they're still in a situation where they can't become lawfully employed because of their past. So just wanted to throw that out there. The SMHA is an employer that has banned the box.
That's wonderful. And so actually it's good that you said that, because you're helping us tie some of these loopholes together, because right before you and Lisa came on, we were talking about training programs, and it was really interesting because Sandra shared some programs that they have within Stark County Community Action Agency. Danelle talked about training programs as well that are helping people and are trying to target them and put them with their interests. There's nothing like having a job that you want to do and be at. And so, or getting the skills and doing something that you love to do. So that was just a wealth of information. And so it's great that you were able to add this other element to it, because that's also part of this conversation as well. So thank you for sharing that. I do have a quick question for Lisa. And Lisa, I know you gave us the 3 housing options. Can you give us those options one more time? Because we want to make sure that everyone heard them and that everyone knows how to tap into them. So if you could just tell us the 3 housing options, and then just a really quick statement of this is what this housing option is.
Yes. So emergency shelter, that is up to 90 days.
Okay.
We have rapid rehousing, that can be up to 12 months of rental assistance. And then permanent supportive housing, that's for households who are disabled, formerly homeless, and there's no time limit on that specific type of housing. And again, to access our services, you would need to contact Homeless Navigation at 330-452-4363.
Thank you so much for going through those again. One of the questions we had listed on here was, how can returning citizens tap into the housing supports? And I think the both of you have kind of answered that as well. But if I'm going to give you an opportunity, though, to still elaborate on that. So for returning citizens, because we asked Sandra the same question, how can you tap into those services that you're offering through housing? And we understand that those three options exist. We understand that you have to start with that navigation piece. So is that the best place to start, Lisa? That's the foundational place?
Yes, for our agency, it is. That would
Okay.
be the front door, is sometimes we call it as a provider. But if they have any questions, they're more than happy to reach out to our agency. Our case managers that operate these programs are always happy to answer questions about their programs. We often get calls from case managers, sometimes probation, parole, just asking how they can get their clients assistance and how they can get things going for them. So they're always welcome to call our agency. Our agency number is 330-453-7644. If they have a specific question about shelter, they would just ask for the shelter department or something along those lines. But it's best to start with homeless navigation to seek any services.
So along the same lines, Corey, this is a similar question, but it's also this notion of collaboration. Do you find that probation officers or maybe the reentry court program, that they may contact your agency to really help returning citizens understand that navigation process? Not sure if you get calls like that, but if so, can you explain that process?
Sure. Anyone can call on behalf of someone. If they're a current resident, we do need a release in order to communicate about anyone that may be a resident or a participant in our Housing Choice Voucher Program. And just one other point of clarification, the Housing Choice Voucher Program is not, year round. There's certain times where the list is open. People may hear about that or see an ad in a newspaper, but there are certain times of the year, and that's based on funding and the number of vouchers that are available. But again, there are others who work more directly with that program that can provide more information. And I would like to leave my number because sometimes just navigating through the different prompts on the general line, you might not be able to get to people. So my number is 234-214-4262. And I'll do my best to direct you right to someone who can assist you, like Lisa Wakeham. She is responsible for our special program. So those are various types of housing choice vouchers for veterans, where there's a collaboration with the Veterans Administration, and they help veterans to navigate through the process of getting housing and other supportive services, as well as, again, based on funding, we've had vouchers allotted for young people who are aging out of foster care. Those are a certain set of vouchers as well. There was a reunification program previously. I contacted Lisa about it because I remember it happening, but again, many times these things are available for a short period of time based on funding. So it's important to just look at our website. And of course, you could call my number 234-214-4262, and I'll do my best to get you to the right person that can get you information. But overall, we also, Stark Metropolitan Housing Authority, is a part of the collaboration for addressing homelessness. And as Ms. Snyder gave the number, is the same, the 330-452-4363. And again, you could call my number as well.
Wow, this is great, because today, I'm not sure we actually knew about how the collaboration worked, but hopefully what we were able to show is that from everyone that's been on this conversation today, that it is all connected. All of you have been collaborating and are collaborating in those ways. And so for our returning citizens that are trying to figure out how to navigate, we have some great phone numbers listed here for family members who are saying, hey, I know someone who's been trying to get into this, or they're trying to understand how to navigate this service. We have those numbers listed today. So, and you also have met the people that can help navigate that. So thank you so much, everyone, for giving your numbers and as well as giving your time with us with respect to navigating. I want to now pause just for a quick second to give all of our presenters just a few moments, because I want to check the questions to see if we have any questions here. And I want to just go through. And so I'll start here with Tiffany. Do you see any questions on our Facebook?
Not currently on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. And I'm checking here with our chat to see if there are any questions here that are listed. No, No, I think yeah, this is great. So it seems like the things that have been talked about and discussed today with respect to housing supports, how to navigate housing supports, the different options that are available under housing, those have been addressed. And we've also heard how that there is this collaboration countywide with all of our agencies that are here supporting us today as well. So thank you very much for pulling that together. I want to just check one more time to see if there are any other questions that are here. Just so everyone knows, also, I want to just do a quick carrot insert that we do have a survey and that's out there. So this is posted on Facebook Live. We're also posting it on Zoom. Please take a few moments to complete the survey. This is day 2 of our services. So I'm going to open it up now for just some final comments. And I'm going to start with our guest that we just introduced and we were talking to, takeaways, key takeaways. So I'll start with you, Lisa, then I'll move over to you, Corey, and then Sandra, I'll move over to you as well. So Lisa, one key takeaway for folks that have been listening and for folks who, if they've been listening right now, or they may come back and listen to this at another point in time. One key takeaway, please.
We really offer a variety of services at our agency, and we really strive to empower and help the residents of Stark County. So we encourage those who need services to seek services. We have a great support team here. We're willing to help because our population that we serve is the homeless. So we really want to try to help people the best that we can and help them improve their situation. So please contact Homeless Navigation if you need any services, whether it's rent, housing, shelter. Please contact them or our agency, and we will see how we can best help you.
Thank you so much, Lisa Snyder. Okay, Attorney Corey Mider-Smith.
Thank you.
One takeaway from you.
Well, actually, I have two, if I may.
See, I knew. That's why I said
these are important aspects of housing as well, and eligibility.
Okay.
Many of you may have been watching the news, and we heard about Congress passing the reauthorization of the 2013 VAWA Violence Against Women Act. And that's very important. It hasn't, passed through the Senate yet, but it's very important because most any housing program that receives federal funds is responsible for processing VAWA claims. So what does VAWA mean? It's protecting individuals who may have experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. And it's important because one of the 4 times that housing authorities and those who receive federal funds that provide housing, it's important for them to let a person know when they're denied that they have rights under VAWA. And that is important because one of the things I first mentioned is the eligibility piece for housing, like Ms. Snyder. So when, for example, there's a criminal background check, and in the criminal history, there are, assaults or break-ins or criminal damaging, things that are not automatically flagged as domestic violence. They can be related to domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, or dating violence. So I am encouraging people to know their rights in regards to VAWA if they are denied housing, so that they can at least ask, because they have a right to find out more and or have a reconsideration of their application. And also, as mentioned, some of the eligibility for some of these types of housing, as well as special vouchers, are based on individuals who may have a disability, and that being verified by a third-party professional. And it's, again, responsibility of housing authorities as well as other housing providers that are funded by federal dollars to make sure they're processing reasonable accommodation requests. So earlier it was asked whether someone else, a caseworker or someone else, can contact the housing authority on behalf of someone. Well, that could be a third party that receives communications on behalf of that person, helping them to be able to live independently. And that means helping them to apply for housing. So that is a part of the accommodation process, where it's not that individual, but someone else doing it on his or her behalf. So 2 takeaways: VAWA, Violence Against Women Act, and reasonable accommodations. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. But that's good though, because that's up and coming legislation, and it's not everyone tracks legislation. And so being able to understand and know that this is something that is coming out right now, and right now we know that it still hasn't passed, so it's still in
Well,
process.
it's out. It's out.
out.
It's the reauthorization of it. Just like the
Got
Voting Rights Act has to be reauthorized every so often. It doesn't mean that we don't have to do it because it expired. We still have to do it.
Okay.
We should do it. And it is beneficial for us to do it. But at the same time, as far as officially reauthorizing it, because again, this is the 2013. The 2019, it passed Congress, but it didn't pass the Senate. And now we're on the 2021 reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. So we're still operating on the 2013 right now until it is passed through the Senate. But just keep an eye out on all of that. And most importantly, if you are someone helping another person, that you make sure that they know about VAWA as well as reasonable accommodations. And that's also for modifications. You know, we have people with physical disabilities.
I was going to say,
maybe a ramp or something like that that's not already at the property. So these are just things to think about in order for you to fully enjoy and use the property, things you may need that a federally funded housing provider is responsible for doing.
So people need to ask, they need to know their rights. And if those aren't happening, then they need to call you. I'm just saying, you're talking about. So I'm just saying. So, because we know that they have, because that's sometimes what happens. People, they think they know, but, they find out on something like this that I didn't know I could ask for that. I didn't know that I could get that ramp. I didn't know I could ask for accommodations. So again, we have all these numbers that are listed here, everyone. So please make sure that if you have questions with respect to housing, you have questions with respect to accommodations, that you ask, because
and thank you to Lisa Wakeham for helping me prepare for this.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, so we don't see Lisa here right now, but we're thanking her live. Thank you. And you can also probably contact Lisa, right? Look, Corey's saying yes. So Lisa, know that people may be contacting you because of this as well. But that's all good though, because this is what this is about: education, empowerment, and learning. So thank you so much, Ms. Corey Miner-Smith. Thank you so much, Ms. Lisa Snyder. And now I'm going to move to Ms. Sandra Piles. So Sandra, now it was 1, then it was 2. You can do 3 key takeaways. But no more than 3. No more than 3.
Well, I'm just going to keep it really, really plain and really, really simple. And I'm just going to go with our mission statement at Stark County Community Action Agency. Our mission statement is to promote economic self-sufficiency among low-income families and individuals in Stark County. That is what we live by. That is what we do. We have all of the programs for low-income families. Like I said, from birth all the way up to adulthood. I would say just go to our website, go to agency programs, check out what we have, and call if you need more information and apply. That's what we're here for. We're here to help low-income families become economically self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Ms. Sandra Piles. And the fact that you recited that mission statement and you know it and believe it, because that's how you live. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of information with us. I'm going to circle back, if you recall, where we started. So we're going to land where we started. And so where we started our conversation, it was with Tarana Francisco and Danielle Leitner. And so Ms. Francisco, can you give us a key takeaway from our conversations today?
Yes, just really want to make sure that the parent remains positive, reach out to their social worker to see what's needed in order to be reunified with their children and engage in their services. So.
Okay, thank you so much. That positivity is key with that reunification. And Ms. Danielle Leitner, one key takeaway from you.
My takeaway would be, again, if you don't ask, you don't know. So if when in doubt, give us a call and we'll explore what you're eligible for.
All right. If you don't ask, then you don't know. And I think that actually followed suit with everyone that was on this conversation today. That was something that I heard really loud and clear, and I know all of our viewers did as well. Ask, and that's how we get those answers. So thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. And thank all of you as well. I do have one comment that I want to make here because I see it in the chat, and we're going to check for questions. And then I'm going to turn it back over to my co-host, Tiffany Skillern. The comment here is that early voting is ongoing right now, everyone, in Ohio. People who have paid their debt to society can register and vote again. So that is the comment that's listed here in the chat. Early voting is happening right now. So please make sure you register. And so thank you so much for sharing that in the chat with us as well. Tiffany, are there any questions that you see on Facebook for us?
Giving us a little check here. See any pop up at first? No, I still don't see any.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to you to close us out.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Tarana Francisco, Danelle Leitner, Sandra Piles, attorney Corey Minor-Smith, and Lisa Snyder. You guys, thank you so much. You know, it's a lot of great information for our community in general. So on behalf of the Stark County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, thank you for joining us for day 2 of Stepping into New Beginnings, a 3-part second chance series. Please, again, take a few minutes to complete the series survey. At the conclusion of our 3rd day, we will be emailing you community resources that focus on addressing the risks and needs of our returning citizens. So we will see you on Thursday, April 29th, again at 4 p.m. sharp for day 3, where we're going to talk about empowerment, rebuilding your life. So everybody, you have a good evening. Thank you again. Make sure you give us feedback because this is very important to us. We don't just put on programs to just program. We put them on to make an impact. So we definitely value your feedback. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, snowboards.
Have a good night, ladies.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night. Good night.